Okay, guys, today we are going to do the treatment of Crohn's disease. So now we have to do the treatment of active disease. So basically, this is a lifelong disease, and this exacerbation preservation happens in this disease. So our target is to improve the symptoms of the patient and quality of the life, and helps in we have to help him to reduce the progression and complication of the disease. So there are some therapies. First of all, we have to think about the diet of the patient. It should be well balanced, and there should be few restrictions. That eating smaller but more frequent meals is helpful. Smaller, more frequent should be helpful, and patient with diarrhea should be encouraged to drink fruits to avoid dehydration. So fluids, diarrhea, of course. Many patients report certain food worsen this condition, especially like greasy food. So just we have to avoid that thing. Some patient has lactose intolerance. Some patient has a problem with the dairy products. So we have to give them the trial. But if flatulence and diarrhea is a prominent complications, okay, so we should not give the dairy products in that. Just like, because celiac disease, they have symptoms more or less like a celiac as well. So yes, sometimes patient has obstructive symptoms, and so we have to give low roughage diet, that is no raw fruits and vegetables. For that, for the obstruction, like popcorn nuts are avoided in patients. A resection of more than 100 centimeters of terminal ileum is a result of fat malabsorption. Yes, when we remove the terminal ileum, leads to fat malabsorption, and for that reason we have to give the low fat diet. Now we have to must give the patient the parenteral vitamin B12 injection subcut per month. That is very much important. And vitamin D complex, because fat malabsorption, these problems happening. Now, enteral therapy, what is that? Supplemental enteral therapy via NG tube must be required for the children and adolescent with poor intake and growth retardation. Yes, we have to do like that. Now, total TPN, it is used for the short term, the patient with active disease. For the active disease, we have to give them TPN. And progressive weight loss or awaiting surgery who has malnutrition but cannot tolerate enteral feeding because of high. Okay, so for the criteria for TPN is when the patient is having active disease. One, patient is a very progressive weight loss. Number three, patient is waiting for the surgery and who has malnutrition and cannot tolerate the enteral. So yes, we have to go that with the total like TPN. The next, they say that high output fistula, severe diarrhea, abdominal pain. They say that, yeah, because yes, these are all the conditions for TPN, like fistula, severe diarrhea, abdominal pain. So they say that it is required long term the small out. So, all right, so yes, so we're talking about the corticosteroids. For low dose, we have to give the low dose corticosteroids in some cases. Okay, all right, now they're talking about, basically they're talking about how this corticosteroid is effective. Basically, they're saying this, and we can give the pulse methylprednisolone to these patients as well. Okay, so this is the thing. Now next, they say that when there's a proximal or distal colon disease, the treatment failure is happening. Sometimes remission is about 80%. So these are very much detailed things. Basically, they're saying treatment is 8 to 16 weeks in most of the cases, and we have to taper the dose. This is the basically the chunk of all this story. They're saying basically we should not just read this. And the patient required long-term corticosteroid should be given. I mean, yes, definitely we have to just add on the immunomodulatory medications when we need long-term steroids along with biological agents, right? Now, the patient has persisting symptoms. We have given the oral corticosteroids. Now, what we have to do? Now, we how to like see that clinical features. Patient would be presenting with a high fevers, persistent vomiting, evidence of intestinal obstruction, still severe weight loss, severe abdominal tenderness, suspicion of, all right. So they or suspicion of abscess should be hospitalized. Now, what is the criteria to hospital admission in the Crohn's disease? When the patient is given all the first line therapies along with the corticosteroids, still have fever, persistent vomiting, intestinal obstruction, severe weight loss, severe abdominal tenderness, and suspicion of the abscess, this condition we have to admit the patient. And in the patient with tender, palpable, inflammatory abdominal pain, MIS, we have to do the CT of the abdomen. Okay. So yes, to rule out the abscess. So basically, these are the features of mostly the abscess, because Crohn's disease have abscesses as well. If no abscess is identified, parenteral corticosteroids. Now IV, we have to give IV corticosteroids. All right. So next is azathioprine, captopril, or methotrexate. The three main indication for immunomodulators in the Crohn's disease. Basically, we have to know these things. What is the criteria? After induction therapy one with corticosteroid to allow their withdrawal easily. All right. Number and to maintain remission. So basically, just cumulative therapy. Number two, for the induction of remission in combination with anti-TNF therapies in patients with moderate to severe active Crohn's. All right. And next is in combination with biological agent to reduce the likelihood of neutralizing antibody formation. Basically, these medications are given as a cumulative therapy when we give the steroids, we can be when we give the TNF anti-TNF therapies, or when we give the biological agents to the patients. All right, so these are the thing like that. Okay, next is anti-TNF therapy. What is that? Infliximab, adalimumab, or sertolizumab. So these are the three drugs. These are used to induce and maintain the remission of the patients. Okay, this is the anti-TNF therapies. Okay, next. Now, acute induction therapy. Okay, this is all about the medications which are used. Now we talk about the acute induction therapy, that is anti-TNF therapy. They are recommended as a preferred first-line therapy to induce the remission of the patient with moderate to severe. So patient is acute like condition, and we need a very quick relief to the patient. We start the anti-TNF therapy to these patients, and when the definitely moderate to severe disease, all these therapies are happening. Okay. Now they say Crohn's disease either as monotherapy or combination with thiopurine. So these are the combination. Okay, so improvement is going on with this, and this is the two major controversies about anti-TNF. What is that controversy? Whether TNF should be reserved as a second line, and just leave it. No need. So basically, there's when the medication is started, there is always a QE to that. Uh, all right. So next, they say that this is basically study, so no need of reading that study. Now they say that combination therapy infliximab and azathioprine versus infliximab alone or azathioprine alone in the patient with moderate to severe disease who do not have previously been treated with immunomodulators or anti-TNF agents, it has a good response. So just leave it, guys. After 6 months, they say infliximab, it will cause the remission of the mucosal healing, etc. So this is basically a good drug. Okay, just leave it. This is all the statistics, and no need of doing that. And the last, they say the combination therapy with anti-TNF and azathioprine beyond 1 year may not appropriate in men younger than 30. Yes, this is thing we have to know. Combination with anti-TNF and azathioprine in the younger patients, men basically less than 30 years of age, in whom there is a high risk of hepatosplenic T-cell lymphoma, and in the adults older than 50 to 60 years in whom there is a risk of lymphoma and infectious complications. So yes, guys, basically this is important. Anti-TNF, we have to screen for their TB for that, these patients, because this is immunosuppressive therapy. So less than 30 years of man, it can cause hepatosplenic T-cell lymphoma, and more than 50 to 60 years, it can cause infections plus lymphoma. This is induction therapy. The main thing was infliximab, anti-TNF. Now the maintenance therapy. So maintenance therapy, like relapse can happen, 80% 1 year. So what we have to do for that? For maintenance therapy, what we have to do, we have to give infliximab. Again, we are giving for 8 weeks, and adalimumab subcut. This is basically injectable form. Adalimumab is a injectable form of anti-TNF. So we can give that as well to that patient. These are two things we give. And with long-term maintenance therapy, right, leave it. Okay, so basically they're saying we use this thing. Now, all right. Uh, so basically they're talking about that. There's another drug, biological agents, they say. These are such as vedolizumab and ustekinumab. These are also the medications which can be used. They say concomitant therapy with anti-TNF agent, immunomodulatory agents. What are the names of immunomodulatory agents? We have to know. What are the names of biological agents? We have to know. Immunomodulatory agents, these are three we talked about. methotrexate, captopril, and thiopurine. So these are, they reduces the risk of development of antibodies to the to anti-TNF agents. So basically, antibodies are not formed, and but risk of Hodgkin lymphoma is increased. We already know it. Leave it. Now, another drug is anti-integrin. Anti-integrin may offer a therapeutic options for the patient who do not respond to anti-TNF. Now, when the anti-TNF is not successful, now next what drug should be given? That is anti-integrin drug. Okay, and vedolizumab can also be given to primary patients. So basically, we have to know the name, and they will not, I think, so tease us in the treatment. Inshallah, the CPSP people. And basically, we have to know this is not successful. Then we have what we have to do: switch anti-integrin. We have to switch that, and then anti TNF therapy switching to velidumab. These are the biological agents. We give that, etc., etc. This is how it's going on. Okay, there's another drug that is called the anti one IL-12, IL-20, interleukin 12, interleukin 23 antibody. Now this is ustekinumab. Ustekinumab. Now this is the drug which is interleukin 12, 23 antibody. And is drug FDA approved treatment of the patient to moderate to severe Crohn's with no response to any or intolerant to conventional therapy. Okay, this is the new drug. This is the new drug basically, and we use it when all the results are not successful with the conventional therapy. This is the drug, ustekinumab, right? All right, this is the drug, but that's all. We should know. We should know this thing. Now, the question comes: what is the indication of the surgery? This is important. Over 50% of the patient will require at least one surgery, right? And due to the tractability of the disease and the medical treatment is formation of the abscess, massive bleeding, symptomatic refractory internal or perianal fistulas, intestinal obstruction. 50% they require the surgery, right? So this is the thing. Now next they say that patient with chronic obstructive symptoms due to short segment of the ileal stenosis are best treated with resection or structuroplasty. We have to do like this after the treatment of like with the corticosteroid, etc., etc. We do it. Sometimes we do the endoscopic treatment to the patients, and endoscopic recurrence can also occur because there's formation of fistula stuff. So this happens, like, yeah, we need the surgery to these patients at any cost. All right, next they say, okay, so that's all about it. Okay, leave it. Now, prognosis of this disease is, they say the majority of the patient can cope up with the chronic disease and complication and lead a productive life. So refer all the patient, I think, so we have to refer, admit the patient when they require. So you did it, guys.